Do you know that Vikings never actually wore a helmet like this? No, they were a warrior people. They never would have wore something that would have got knocked off their heads so easily. Also, they're not in fact a race of people. It's more like a career choice, really. Do you need a reference for piracy? According to Brynjar, you're pretty good at plundering. Unfortunately, the position we have open requires a 4-year degree. Welcome to a brief history of the past. I'm Kaelan Burrows, and today we're exploring the history of Vikings. Today's topic was a viewer suggestion from Chris O'Connor. Thanks, Chris. If you'd like a mention in a future episode, let me know what sort of history topics you'd like to see me discuss in the comments below.
Seriously, do it. Do it. Do it.
The term Viking comes from an Old Norse word meaning pirate. The Viking Age refers to a period between the end of the 8th century through the 11th century where a large number of Scandinavians left their homelands in search of riches. The seafaring warriors, known as Vikings or Norsemen, came from what is now known as Denmark, Norway and Sweden. In fact, I think we've got a clip featuring the battle cry of one of the most famous Viking Swedes. The first recorded Viking raid was in 793 AD at the Lindisfarne monastery off the coast of Northumberland in England. While the raiders didn't completely destroy the monastery, it was the attack itself that shocked the European religious world. Up to this point, most invaders respected religious institutions and didn't attack such things as monasteries, so they were usually left unguarded. However, the Vikings were not Christians and had no reservations about attacking church properties. The raiders at Lindisfarne were most likely Norwegians who sailed directly across the North Sea. See, I've never trusted Norway. No, them and the Swedes act way too innocent, but that's why I boycott the Norwegian cruise lines. Yeah. No, they're born from piracy. I can't support that.
You cheated. Pirate.
Because Vikings weren't Christian, they were seen as barbarians by the rest of the world, and they've developed a reputation as just sort of being Vikings all the time. But in actuality, being a Viking was a part-time gig for most Scandinavians. When they weren't raiding, they were fishing, farming, blacksmithing, planting crops. That can't be right. Hey, Stefan, you got any weekend plans? Yeah, gonna do a bit of farming. Then, me and some of the lads were going to take a boat out to the coast for a bit of pillaging and murdering. Whew. Look at you, living the dream. For several decades, the Vikings continued hit-and-run raids against coastal targets in the British Isles and Europe. Eventually, they took advantage of a power struggle amongst the Franks to move further inland. Wait, some blokes named Frank were having a tussle? In 840 AD, after the death of his father, Emperor Louis the Pious, Lothar of what is now France and Germany recruited the Viking fleet to aid in the conflict against his brothers. It didn't take long for other Vikings to realize that Frankish rulers would pay to avoid being attacked by them. Wait, so the Vikings were the original mafia running a protection racket?
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Vikings didn't only raid and pillage, they also settled in places after attacking them, putting their other skills to use.
Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
By the mid-9th century, Ireland, Scotland and England had come to know the Vikings quite well. They had seized the Northern Isles, much of mainland Scotland, they had founded Ireland's first trade towns, and they used their base on the Irish coast to attack England. You know, it sounds like England learned a thing or two from the Vikings about growing an empire. He's looking at you, Queen Victoria.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney.
Viking armies, mainly made up of Danes, conquered East Anglia, Northumberland, and eastern Mercia. It wasn't until 871 that King Alfred the Great of Wessex was finally able to defeat a Danish army, forcing them to retreat out of Wessex and settle to the north. A Danish army. Sounds delicious. The Scandinavian areas of England wouldn't be reclaimed for over a century until 952, when the last of their kings, Eric Bloodaxe, was expelled and killed. Wait, his name was King Bloodaxe? No wonder it took so long to drive them back. Today, men, we fight for honor. We fight for country. The army of King Bloodaxe will rue the day. Yeah, wait, what's he called? I just remembered, I left the kettle on. Around the same time the Vikings were conquering the British Isles, they were also very active on the European continent. They sacked the coast of France, as well as venturing as far inland as Paris. In 844 they stormed Seville. In 859 they plundered Pisa. You know, these are all very scenic places. Are we sure they weren't just on holiday? In the year 911, the West Frankish king granted Rouen and the surrounding territories to the Viking chief in exchange for not letting any other raiders through the area. This region of northern France became known as Normandy, or Land of the Northmen. You know, interestingly enough, shortly after the Danes were given the boot from Britain, the Norman kings began their rule of England in 1066. It's almost as if the Vikings never left.
That was really rude. Take it back, apologize.
Even though the Normans took over the throne, they were now Christian and no longer considered Vikings. The same was true for most Scandinavian people by this point, and what remained of Viking culture was being absorbed into the Christian European culture, thus ending the Viking Age. And that is where our story ends. What? What do you mean I still got to talk about the Norwegians? They got to you, didn't they? Norwegian cruise line bought you off. Aside from being blacksmiths, farmers, and warriors, Vikings were also great explorers. While the conquering was going on in the east, the Norwegian branch of the Vikings headed out west, settling in the North Atlantic on Iceland, a place where no one had yet to settle in large numbers. By the 10th century, they had ventured even further west, settling in Greenland, led by Eric the Red. Ooh. That's quite intense. Why do they call him that? Because he had a red beard and hair. Then why not call him Eric the Ginger? Red makes it sound like he's good at murdering.
Why would you assume that?
It is believed that Eric the Ginger's son, Leif, may have been amongst the first Europeans to discover and explore North America. They landed and built a temporary settlement in what is now Newfoundland. But beyond that, there's no evidence of a Viking presence in North America. Wait. So the ruthless Vikings landed, saw the Native Americans, and was like, looks like they got it sorted. We'll see ourselves out. He's looking at you, rest of the world. There you have it, everyone. A brief history of the rise and decline of the Viking Empire. Be sure to check out our next episode where we'll be exploring the history of Valentine's Day. Wait, is it Valentine or Valentine? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and a share. Let me know what sort of history topics you'd like to see me discuss in future episodes in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified when more brief history of the past videos go up. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the future. By the mid-9th century, Ireland, Scotland and England had come to know the Vikings quite well. They had seized the Northern Isles and much of mainland Scotland. They founded's the word I was looking for.